So TurboTax made headlines recently when it temporarily halted e-filing for state returns. Can you explain what happened?
TurboTax doesn't even know exactly what happened. What they think happened is that some third party intercepted data somewhere. They maintain that they did not have a breach of their own security system, but that somehow data was obtained from a third party, and that data was used to file returns on behalf of taxpayers. So on the taxpayer side, when folks went to log in to start their new returns, they noticed they'd already filed a tax return, which, as you can imagine, was a little problematic. And they started seeing patterns from state to state. Actually, Minnesota was the first state to notice, and Minnesota actually refused to accept TurboTax filed returns for a while after noticing this pattern. About 18 other states also noticed problems, and so TurboTax stepped in and voluntarily put a halt to state returns. It did not affect federal returns.
So where do things stand right now?
As of now, TurboTax is again filing all federal and state returns. There's no hold. And if you had tried to file during the hold period, those returns were queued and they'll go ahead and be filed as normal. So if you were a taxpayer who tried to file in the middle of all this, you're not out of luck. You don't have to do anything, just sit tight. But in the meantime, TurboTax is actually trying to figure out where the stolen data came from and whether or not it affected other systems. They maintain that it's not. And in addition, H&R Block and Tax Act both also say that their systems have not been affected. IRS likewise released a statement that said that taxpayer data does not appear to be compromised on their end.
So as a consumer, should I be worried?
It depends on what you describe as worried. So I don't think that taxpayers should automatically assume that there is a problem with their data or that their data is potentially in jeopardy. But that doesn't mean that taxpayers shouldn't be diligent. Identity fraud is huge business right now, billions of dollars. And so there are safeguards in place on state and federal ends to try to stop the fraud. But taxpayers have to be really smart about where you access your data, what kind of data you're giving out. And if you see something that looks suspicious when you've logged into TurboTax, H&R, any of the digital products, what you want to do is stop using it and contact the provider and find out if there's any reason to be concerned. You also may want to talk with your tax provider and double check with IRS that they don't have a problem on their end.
So Kelly, what is the big takeaway from all of this?
Well, I think the big thing to understand is that this, while it is a one-time thing with TurboTax, this is not necessarily a one-time thing for taxpayers. Identity theft is a big problem. It's not going away. And for the second year in a row, IRS actually identified it as a primary concern for taxpayers. So I would tell taxpayers to be careful, not to be scared, but to be careful.